Former FBI Deputy Director John O'Neill wanted to investigate the terrorists who were planning to blow up the trade towers on 9/11, but he was prevented from doing so by President George Bush. Bush signed Presidential Directive W199I, making it a crime to investigate or hinder the operations of one Abdullah bin Laden in any way.
Bush had put limits on investigations by our intelligence agencies on investigating the money behind the terrorists before September 11th, because Saudi Arabia is the source of almost all the funding, and you could not touch the guys that were giving the money to make Al-Qaeda operate. Now, a lot of this, we believe, was determined in a meeting in Paris in 1996. The Khobar Towers were attacked within Saudi Arabia. 19 American military people were killed while they were sleeping. That was Al-Qaeda. The Saudis, rather than go after these guys and capture them, basically went to them and said, how much does it cost for you to go play in Afghanistan instead, or in Uzbekistan? And by the way, it's not just paying them protection money to get lost. They actually wanted Al-Qaeda to spread the word of Wahhabism and sell to Central Asian republics the kind of vicious, small-minded, feudal state that they have in Saudi Arabia. Of course, Al-Qaeda's vision was that it's not feudal enough and it's not terrible enough. I even have the documents from the FBI, secret documents that were dropped off by FBI agents. This document is marked secret and WF, which means it walked its way out of the Washington Bureau of the FBI. It indicates that before the attack of September 11th, agents had wanted to question two members of a very powerful family for their connections to a suspected terrorist organization, Omar and Abdullah bin Laden. But the agents weren't allowed to. Now, what makes this family so special that they're protected from investigation?
This followed previous orders to abandon an investigation of bin Laden relatives in 1996 by Bill Clinton, and difficulties in investigating Saudi royalty. President Clinton was already hindering investigations by protecting Saudi interests during the 1990s. His approach to terror was weak. However, where Clinton said go slow, Bush policymakers said no go. The difference is between closing one eye and closing them both. No one would be allowed to pursue certain Saudis and Pakistanis, many of which were involved in the September 11th attacks. In Washington, politicians jumped to the claim that anyone harboring or supporting terrorists should be pursued. But when it comes to some powerful individuals in these two countries, a blind eye is turned. The issue rarely raised by reporters. Disgusted and angry at both the Bush and Clinton administrations, FBI agent John O'Neill ended his career by resigning office. John O'Neill was given a new career as Deputy of Security at the World Trade Center in New York City for the private security team of the leaseholder of the building, Larry Silverstein.
Did you recruit John O'Neill into Kroll?
No.
Who did?
He didn't work for Kroll.
Who did he work for?
He worked for the FBI and then went to work for Larry Silverstein.
But I thought Kroll had the contract to do security at the World Trade Center, and I thought John O'Neill's first day at the job was on 9/11.
And I joked with him. I said, well, that'll be an easy job. They're not going to bomb that place again. And he said, well, actually, he immediately came back and he said, no, actually, they've always wanted to finish that job. I think they're going to try again.
Silverstein had his own security company? How did this work?
No, Silverstein had his own people that worked on security. He had a whole security staff there.
Okay.
On the night of September 10th, John O'Neill did what he loved doing, and he did it from his favorite table at Elaine's.
We left about 2:30. John gave me a big bear hug and said, I'll see you tomorrow. And John went home, and that was the last I saw him.
Little did John O'Neill know that his first day on the job would also be the last day of his life on Earth. This seemed very convenient for Osama bin Laden because the one individual who stands tall among those intelligence and law enforcement officers who were aggressively pursuing the criminal network that would carry out 9/11 was counterterrorism top man John O'Neill. Ever since the first World Trade Center bombing in 1993, O'Neill's pursuit of Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda had been hindered, as the biography of his book detailed. After further terrorist attacks at the Khobar Towers barracks in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, and the USS Cole in Aden Harbor, O'Neill's biggest problem was not Al-Qaeda. It was resistance from top officials inside the United States government.
John O'Neill was the chief investigator of the USS Cole bombing.
On October 12, 2000, the USS Cole was reportedly blown up by two men who approached the warship in a small boat. It was recently reported that the suspects involved in the USS Cole bombing have escaped Yemeni prisons by tunneling their way out.
During the trial where a Yemeni court convicted him of murdering 17 American sailors, Jamal al-Badawi showed no remorse, only defiance. Sentenced to death for his role in the bombing of the USS Cole, al-Badawi's sentence was later reduced to 15 years in prison. Now, barely 15 months into that sentence at a prison outside Yemen's capital, Sana'a, he and 22 other prisoners, including at least 13 convicted al-Qaeda terrorists, have escaped through a 150-yard tunnel dug under the prison wall. Today, Interpol issued a global security alert calling al-Badawi and the other escapees a clear and present danger to all countries.
In his pursuit of Al-Qaeda, O'Neill, according to people who worked closely with him, began to have serious concerns over complicity by those inside the Clinton and Bush administrations. There was the mysterious theft in the summer of 2000 of his briefcase at a Tampa hotel during a retirement seminar where the only participants were 150 other FBI agents.
O'Neill attended a conference of other agents in Florida.
We were meeting in Bal Harbor at the Marriott. John came in, he is just, I don't remember seeing John as distraught as he was this night. What has happened, he told me, he left his briefcase in this room of 150 FBI agents and got a phone call. Couldn't hear on his cell phone, so he just walked outside to take his call. Walked back in, his briefcase was gone. He was completely freaked.
O'Neill's bag contained classified documents.
In the briefcase were a few classified emails and a classified document called the Annual Field Office Report, a summary of the New York FBI's Office Counterterrorist and Counterintelligence Operations, including one very sensitive investigation being conducted by another New York counterintelligence FBI special agent, Michael Dick.
After the incident, whoever stole O'Neill's briefcase had found out what O'Neill knew about both Al-Qaeda and their Israeli shadows.
John O'Neill's FBI colleague, Mike Dick, aggressively investigated the Israeli ring before and after 9/11. Like O'Neill, he soon found himself removed from his duties on the orders of the then head of the Justice Department's criminal division, Michael Chertoff. Dick was very suspicious when Israeli movers quickly moved Zim American-Israeli Shipping Company out of its 10,000 square foot office on the 17th floor of the North Tower. The partially Israeli state-owned firm fortified a $50,000 security deposit when it terminated its lease and vacated the building 1 week prior to 9/11.